All right. I'm super excited about this one here with Yi Wang. Yi, thanks for jumping in with me today. This is going to be fun.
Yes. Hi, Blake. Thank you for having me.
So maybe give us a little context around some of the work you've done, kind of your kind of career background and trajectory so far, just so we have some context before we dive in. Because we've got a cool topic to dive into around what you're working on currently, but maybe just sort of set us up with some of the background and context on kind of where you come from and what you've worked on so far.
Yeah. So my background is in consulting. I was with a little boutique consulting firm called Capco for about 7 years. I realized after 7 years that I was done with corporate America. I basically wanted to do something else, anything else. And I decided to join my first startup. It was a startup called Capco. It was in,
Plaid,
I'm so
right?
sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
That's
right. Yeah. No worries. We'll power through.
Sorry. It was a startup called Quovo.
Okay, cool.
And I'd never been at a startup before, so I was just learning a lot. Every day was very exciting. I was learning about APIs, aggregation, and fun story. About a year into my Quovo adventure, we got acquired by our biggest competitor, Plaid. So for the past 5 years, I have been in data aggregation, the last 4 of which was at a company called Plaid.
Nice. And Plaid, I think it's a company a lot of folks have heard of, but maybe give a little context around because I know they're in the fintech space. I guess I don't know a ton else on what exactly they do. I feel like I hear about them a ton. Maybe just like kind of clue me in on what exactly Plaid was doing and then maybe the kind of work you were doing there.
Yeah, at Plaid, I was one of their first implementation managers. So my role was to help clients basically integrate with our API. Our API is treated as the front door of financial data. So we will help fintechs like your SoFis and the firms gain access into client data that's normally gated behind the fintechs. Financial institutions like your Chases and your Wells Fargo, so that end users can use their financial data and power the fintech apps that they are interested in using.
Oh, very cool. So if I'm building a fintech startup and I want my customers to be able to link in their accounts from their various financial institutions rather than having to build out, that integration with every single financial institution, I can build with Plaid, and then it's, hey, you're using Chase, you're using Wells Fargo, whatever. It all kind of funnels through Plaid, and I can kind of build one connector instead of however many. Let Plaid build connectors and manage the connections with all the different institutions. As a startup, I only need to work with Plaid. That's pretty cool. I can see that being a big value add, especially in this like fintech boom we've had.
Yeah, exactly. You actually called out our product. It's called Link. It's called Plaid Link. So build one integration with Plaid Link, and your users will be able to input their credentials and be able to pull data for any institution. I think we're at like 14,000 institutions right now. So
very cool. So since then, I know you've kind of dove into you wrapped up your adventure with Plaid, and it sounds like you've dove into the kind of startup discovery. And for the listeners, this is a little bit of a unique conversation. I'm super excited for it. And full disclosure, I try not to make these conversations like a Launch Notes commercial, but we're definitely going to get into some Launch Notes talk with this one because it's just a really cool story you have about how you've been using our product Launch Notes as part of your journey, kind of, I guess, in stealth mode. Would you call it that? Kind of approaching the founder journey. Okay, cool. So yeah, maybe set the scene and give some, share what has been going on since you left Plaid and how you're kind of diving into this phase, super early phase of the startup founder journey.
Exactly. So I was unfortunately affected by the recent downsizing events that's happening across the tech industry. So I was downsized back in December.
Sure.
And then since then, I have decided to actually go on a new adventure. For the past 5 years, I've been helping Plaid clients build their consumer-facing fintech products. So I said, why not me? I know the data, I know the space. I think it's a perfect time for me to build something, try it out, right? It's actually funny that you called it Journey because the startup that I'm trying to build is called Journey.
Oh, nice.
And then that
I didn't do that on purpose, but that worked.
And how I discovered Launch Notes was also kind of serendipitous because I was looking around Google domains, trying to find like journey.com, journey.co, journey.io. And then apparently journey.io is actually a product. I was on their website, I was looking around, and they were trying to explain what their product was and say, hey, view sample product video. And it was Launch Notes, never heard of Launch Notes. And I clicked play and I saw the other Blake show up. I saw the video was about an hour and a half, and I was like, I'm not going to watch the whole thing. I'll watch about 10 minutes of it and be like, see what journey.io is, right? And then I started watching Launch Notes, and I was like, wait a minute. What is Launch Notes? So fast forward to, I basically watched the whole video, and I'm sure the other Blake can say,
yes,
not that many people has watched the whole thing.
I think, well, we hope as many as possible do, and we did kind of put our full, to his credit, so Blake looks after sales and revenue here at Launch Notes, the other Blake, and then he's a really forward-thinking dude in terms of just like the buyer experience, and he was like, let's just put the whole demo on video. Like if people want to talk to me, they can. If people want to do a trial, they can. If people want basically the same demo that I give to, you know, prospects when they show up to get a demo, like I'll just throw it on video. They can watch it on our website, hit us up with questions, whatever. So that's kind of what you found there. And yeah, we're pumped that you found some value out of that.
Yeah, I was originally only planning to like check out journey.io, and then I watched the whole video and I was like enthralled because I'm like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. So as I'm trying to build out my startup, one of the first things you want to do is kind of build a landing page and start collecting kind of like interest from users. So I hadn't really figured out how to like get the subscription and get the messaging to users and start collecting feedback. And then Launch Notes was like doing all that in one package. I was like, this is amazing.
That's very cool. And yeah, that's certainly not, I was so interested when he told me about your use case here because it's not something we typically see, but it makes total sense when you spell it out because a lot of folks who are in this, well, first off, a lot of folks who are in this sort of phase you are with startups and stealth mode and kind of in discovery mode, you know, they're afraid to share anything. And they have this idea that they've got some precious secret that if Google learns about it, they'll build it. And God forbid, what happens is they end up launching to nobody because they haven't built an audience or interest or any sort of like community before they launched. It's super smart that you're doing that. And then a lot of folks will do the kind of like one directional, like, hey, I'll throw up a landing page, I'll collect your email address. And the next step where you took it, which is really cool to see, which I think is why our product was tailor built for this kind of moment, is you wanted to kind of have a dialogue with these folks and not just give me your email address, I'll chuck out an email when the thing launches. You're like, hey, I want to collect feedback. I want to be able to send like incremental updates over time. I want to be able to share roadmap items, share ideas, collect feedback on individual things, gather insights, and then you'll have this like really robust, I'm sure, like community and base that you can launch to when you do have a beta or a 1.0 or a something like that, when you need to like make some noise, get some users, tap into folks for, you know, beta testing, whatever. Like you're building that out, you're kind of building a relationship instead of this one directional monologue, which is what we do for bigger companies all the time. And it's really cool to see you find a fit for that as a kind of pre-launch startup.
Yeah, that's exactly. As a solo founder of one right now,
right.
I have a lot that I need to figure out and tackle. And I know from beginning, from working at Plaid, that collecting user information, any sort of PII, I need to make sure that it's above board. Users know exactly what they're doing by sharing their email and name. And that's something that I had not really figured out on my own. And with Launch Notes, you guys already did it, right? You guys
Right.
have your terms of service policy. So as a user to see all that, I am more likely to start sharing and engaging with my product than was, just a landing page that says username and email. And then you don't even know what you're really signing up for, right? Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. What is your, is it journey.launchnotes?
Yes.
Journey.how is your homepage. I'm going to open it up right now.
Yes, with 2 E's. But I actually changed the name because somebody said nothing is a .how. So it's actually now it's Journey with 2 E's, journeyapp.com.
Journeyapp.com. Okay,
Yes.
Very cool. And then let me find your launch notes page here. Is your launch notes just launchnotes.journeyapp?
No, I haven't paid for the full version yet. I'm still on the free trial. So
nice.
what I did was I changed all the sign up on my landing page to connect directly to my launch notes page.
Oh, cool. I see it now. So if I go to the sign up, it's journey.launchnotes.io. Perfect.
Yes,
Perfect.
exactly.
So I can see. Yeah, I just wanted to be able to look at it as you were talking through it. So yeah, this is awesome. Like you've got you've got the announcements page here. You can collect feedback. You've got the product roadmap tab where you show what you're gathering feedback on already. And this is cool. Like I imagine there's more sort of organization and granularity you can dive into with feedback. I think a lot of founders at your stage are kind of just like, they get a lot of like, hey, yeah, this sounds cool, or I might use this or whatever. But it looks like what you have the framework to be able to build here is like the kind of like components of feedback. And hey, like people said this about this specific thing, but they said that about that specific thing. And these 3 people really want this. And these 5 people said they'd try it if we have this integration. And, maybe in a year that integration exists and you can go back and say, hey, when we talked, this targeted group of people wanted this integration. And now I know exactly. Like no one gets that specific with like their kind of like feedback and early research at this stage. So that's really cool to see. I imagine that's been super helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Like what you're describing is something that a later stage startup will start diving into, not because they don't want to, it's because when you look at all the things you need to do to start building a startup, user feedback is something you want, but it's very time consuming to start collecting and organizing. Like somebody, you just meet at a networking event could give you a great piece of feedback. And then you're like, where do I put it? Do I write it on a notepad? Do I text it to myself? But you can say, hey, come to my website. Here it is. Click sign up, and then it'll take you to a really nice launch notes page where you could, put your feedback directly onto the product, onto the page. It's logged. You have your name attached to it. I know a lot of people are like, oh, that was my idea. I suggested they build this, and then it also helps engage with your users, and you can start building a community off of that.
Yeah, that's so smart too. And that's a big part of kind of our product philosophy at Launch Notes is, this idea that people are drowning in communication from companies. People are using more apps than ever. They're getting emails from every single SaaS app they use and every, store they shopped in. And they're just getting blasted with a lot of it feels like spam. And a lot of it just is impersonal because it's kind of one size fits all. It's, hey, you use our company, so here's an update, right? And we really think the future is going to be around like more granular, targeted, personalized feedback where you can personalize communication where instead of, hey, our new enterprise tier launched and it's like, hey, I'm on enterprise already. This doesn't matter to me. You sent an irrelevant email to a third of your customers. This idea that you can say, hey, you asked for in March, you said that this feature would be valuable, and we've got an update specifically for you because we made this progress on this feature already. And by the way, we'd love to know, like, as a customer, I'm going to be so much more likely to open and engage with that communication and like kind of feel like I have, you know, the other Blake says this all the time, like feel like I have a dialogue instead of a monologue. And it's these big kind of trying to talk to everyone, but not exactly talking to anyone specifically communications that companies fall into doing, where people go, yeah, like I'm just going to ignore this. I'm going to hit, you know, spam because you're not speaking to anything that I've indicated that I care about.
Yeah, exactly. And then to take from my experience working at Plaid, a much later stage startup, one of the biggest challenges that clients have told me is, you told me you're working on it. Can you show me how far along you are? Is it still on the roadmap? Is it not on the roadmap? Like, there's just no transparency around the whole process, right? It's not that we can't tell clients. So at Plaid, we have a blog. The blog is a change log, a product announcement, people spotlight. It's basically just the Wild West. And one of the things that was a little frustrating about that personally is there's no way to subscribe to the blog. So I always like to tell my clients, here's the link. Here's like tips and tricks. Check out the Plaid blog.
Yeah. It's so, that's like the number one thing we either solve for, or kind of, if it depends on whether people have kind of come around to that way of thinking or not. Like some people are still stuck in this, but it's like, oh yeah, we have the company blog, and it's like, okay, that's got a little bit of everything. Like you said, it's got the change log, it's got the thought leadership from the founder, it's got the product announcement, it's got the press release from the, you know, from the latest fundraising. And it's like, even if you could, for a lot of them, like you said, you can't subscribe to it. And even if you could, it's like, who, I don't know, outside of the founder or CEO, like wants all that news. Like they're looking for something specific. And some companies, you know, companies that build for developers, I think a lot of them do a nice job with this, because they'll have like, hey, like we're going to have a change log owned by the devs who work on this API, and we're just going to send, and we have a bunch of dev tool companies that work with us at Launch Notes for something like that, where it's like, there's devs building on our API. They really need to know when it changes. They don't want to get gummed up with the, you know, everything else on our blog, and vice versa. All our blog readers don't need every incremental update on the API. So we're going to have a change log or blog or mailing list just for this API. So it's, yeah, as complex as communication gets with various audiences, granularity of detail folks need, it just makes sense that like you need to open up more channels and avenues and not try to shove it all through one pipe, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like with Launch Notes, you can have the customers figure out exactly what type of user they are. Do they want developer API updates? Do they want product updates, right? Or is there only one product they care about? And then they can just subscribe to those particular categories and be updated. And on our side, we can feel like we're not spamming our customers, right? We can say, hey, you said you want to do this. Here's an update on that. We're not going to fill your newsletter. Like the newsletters just keep growing and growing, and like to the point where there's TLDRs have TLDRs.
Yeah, definitely have seen that and know the feeling. So what's any advice or tips for, because as a kind of stealth stage founder, like I gotta say, like you're thinking about and executing on this component with more sophistication than anyone else I've ever seen do this. So hats off to you for, you know, just being so forward thinking with how you're communicating and building an audience at this stage. Any other advice or tips you'd have for other founders who are kind of in a similar position, or folks who are thinking about, hey, I want to explore an idea. I want to start doing this kind of thing. What would you tell them, aside from use Launch Notes, which I think we've done a good job promoting already? Like what advice might you give them on how to go about it?
If you're starting out, like figure out how much time you want to dedicate to solving a problem, right? If it's a must-have, then you need to solve it. But if it's a nice-to-have, spend 10 minutes on it. Like, is there a tool that makes it easier? Does Google Sheets fix the problem? Like, find a tool out there that will save you time, because time is of the essence, especially when you're building something. And if you're just yourself, you only have 24 hours, minus 8 hours to sleep, eat, etc. There's only so much time in a day that you have. So if there is a way to solve something quick and simple, it might not be the perfect solution. Go for it, right? One of the things that I've learned throughout my journey is don't let perfection be the enemy of good. If it's good enough, go with it, right? Like you saw my lunch note. Like, would I want it to look prettier? Yes, I want more splashy and more visuals. But me as myself, I know I can't do that, and I'm going to dedicate. I think I set my page up in like an hour and a half, maybe a little less, and to spend an hour and a half building that on my own, right? And then having like a big chunk of my problem solved has been great.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. And again, kind of tying back to our product philosophy, you have done something like, you used like the kind of out of the box UI kit that we provide. It works, it's clear, it's well designed, it's, totally fine. And especially, like you said, time is of the essence. So you didn't want to turn this into a week-long design sprint or something. What I really like about the way we've approached building this product and working with customers on this is like, you can also do there's a world of customization options, and there's a full HTML, CSS editor that customers can use. We will work with, we have someone here who just like builds out custom pages meant to look and feel exactly like, so we work with some companies that have like really advanced visual brands and design guidelines and all that. And we're basically able to like kind of pixel for pixel match that. And then the whole kind of experience looks and feels like the rest of the experience they're putting out in the world visually. But what's great about your approach is like, cool, if you grow into that, like all the data and background and subscribers and record, like the important back end stuff is still there. And then you can come to us and say, hey, Journey's taken off and we just got funding and we've got this awesome new website. And what do you think about helping, make our launch notes page look a little more custom and visual? And it's like, cool, we can do that. And you're not starting from scratch. So folks miss that. They try to do too much at first, like you said, or then they kind of pick tools that paint them into a corner where it's like, hey, down the road, we can make this look better, but we're going to have to like start from scratch. We're going to have to port everything over to some other tool, and we're going to have to migrate all our data and blah, 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 where it's like, we'll let you kind of like grow into whatever like visual, like customization you want to do. So that's super smart of you too.
Yeah, exactly. And then, hey, maybe down the line, I want to change my name. I want to change my, my theme and my colors, right? If I built the whole site and page with that, I have to go and change every element. But for launch notes, you guys have kind of like broken out the high level. Hey, this and this are all linked. This and this are linked. To change these three things, you can change your branding. You can change your theme, just like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been awesome. This has been awesome advice. This is super fun because this is not the typical type of conversation we get to do. I usually don't get to have this much fun talking about product and talking to folks in this stage. So this has been super unique and fun for me. And I'm sure there's other founders or future founders out there who will get value out of this. So thanks so much for jumping in with us today. And the page, the URL is Journey. We were just here, journey.co.
Journey with 2 E's app.com.
Journeyapp.com. That's right. Journey app. Journey has 2 E's. And then if you hit sign up, that'll take you right to the launch notes page. You can check out everything we were talking about today. Other than that, if folks want to say hi, connect, learn more, how can people get in touch?
Yeah. So my email is yi@journey with 2 E's.how.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here today. Really appreciate it. It was super fun.
Thank you, Blake. It was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Take care.